I'm Jake with Duerson Corporation. I'm the sales manager for the company. Today with me I have Ryan, who is the local Duralast sales rep, to kind of give us a little better understanding about TIPS, the Cooperative Purchasing Program.
Yeah, so like Jake said, my name is Ryan. I've been a part of Duralast since 2016. Most recently, and why we're here, we've been working with a good handful of contractors and projects within the TIPS Cooperative Purchasing Program, all the way across our region, and even helping and consulting on a larger scale to some different parts of the country.
So Ryan, can you explain a little bit to me on what TIPS is?
Yeah, TIPS is a national cooperative purchasing program built around public entities, and it basically helps them procure, purchase, and solicit to certified contractors and to products to really make their program or their project very efficient and affordable.
So I guess how is it that Duralast is a part of this, and how did they get awarded this?
Duralast is a responsible bidder or responsible party that basically responded to the solicitation from TIPS, the national organization. Now, TIPS has connections through agreements, which are intergovernmental agreements between almost all states. And what that allows them to do is operate independently in each state, but also collectively through one agency in Texas. But as a responsible bidder, Duralast has the products, the manpower, the labor, and the conveyance to the communities around them that they are to be certified and trusted.
What are some of the big time-saving aspects of using the TIPS program, and how does that help both the client and the contractor?
The time-saving aspect of the TIPS program is crucial for a lot of projects for public entities. And what TIPS does is it allows that whole process of solicitation to project management on the front side before a bid is even awarded, and really shrinks that down and allows the public entity to work directly with the contractor, directly with the manufacturer. So communication is, always up front and foremost. So when you take that process of 60 to 90 days before you might see an answer back on what your bid solicitation is, and then there's all the questions that the contractors have, the general contractors, and whoever else may be involved, we really shrink that down basically because we're providing direct communication to and from the people doing the work and the people requiring the work done.
How much savings and time could you see from going through the TIPS program?
Typical time frame, I'll say, on a roofing project traditionally might be go talk to an architect or an engineer, work with them on what the scope of work is, the size of the project, and then they would develop a set of plans and a scope of work to then solicit to a set of contractors, or even have to submit it to the board for approval first. That process could be anywhere from 30 to 60 to 90 days, depending the size and scope of project. We could take that down and do an evaluation with a contractor, take it directly to the board and their maintenance director, the superintendent, whoever may be involved, and have a scope of work back within 5 days. It's a really unique process to do that. It's kind of how it used to be done. So really getting people back to that expectation of time is money. Taking 5 days to 60 days is a huge difference. So that's a lot of manpower, a lot of time, a lot of money that's used in really, I'd say, I don't want to say used. I want to say it's put into the project in some way, shape, or form. We're going directly through TIPS. It really saves that time and money and energy.
I guess what role does the contractor play in this? Is it more the contractor, or is it more Duralast that gets involved in this process?
Yeah, it's a very well-rounded collaboration. The contractor is the direct point of contact, and then they work directly with the building owner. And then the contractor goes and works with Duralast, and they combine their efforts to the scope of work, the bonding requirements, if there are any, and then have the insurance requirements that are Therefore, Duralast being the general contractor of the project. So inherently, the school, the library, the public entity, whatever it may be, has this direct relationship with the people actually doing the work or physically putting it on. And then when all of that is taken care of, it's Duralast and the contractor on the back end, basically providing a very responsible product at the end of the day.
Okay, so from my customer standpoint, where are they going to see the financial benefits of going through the TIPS program for their roofing projects?
Yeah, there's a few aspects of that. First of all, Duralast being the responsible bidder to TIPS and gaining that contract, they have a national account presence with TIPS. That means the national account discounts and advantages of having a large scale purchasing component to Duralast is really how that saves on the materials side. On the timing side, the board meetings, the efforts that they have to go through for meeting periodically, either with an architect, say in the traditional sense, those are eliminated. Those aren't really necessary. The board can do those if they want. But then on top of that, there's the fees associated with having an architect or an engineer being the designer of the project. Since you're working directly with your customer in that, we are basically the designers of the roofing scope of work. There are certain circumstances where somebody might need to be brought in as another expert, whether structurally or if there's some integral issue that needs a sign-off or some sort of permitting. So I would say on the major side of it, it's the national account pricing, and then also the fees associated with having to hire somebody independently to tell us how to do our job as roofers.
So there's got to be some kind of catch. Is it cost anything to join this program, or like what?
Yeah, so the cost associated with TIPS, it is a no obligation, no cost venture. Anybody that is going to be in charge of the contract can sign up online. It takes about 5 minutes, or if you need some help with it, we can get it going a little bit faster if we need to. But 5 minutes on average to sign up, no cost, no obligation, and you'll end up with a number or an account number through TIPS. The business administrator is typically the person that does that because they've got the information as far as any sort of ID forms, school address, mailing address, attention to, and also a business administrator typically is there for a while. So in terms of who we like to see sign up is that business administrator, so we have a consistent point of contact. But no cost, no obligation. It's pretty easy to work with.
So speaking to several of our clients that work for nonprofit organizations, why do we hear them saying that they don't know about it here in Iowa?
TIPS started in Texas as it's a Texas cooperative, and that's the agency that basically is in operation of the intergovernmental contracts between all the states that are part of this. Cooperatives have been around for a while. Basically food service purchasing, whether it be notebooks or certain items that might be beyond a threshold. They all have different names. Some have subscriptions, some don't. Some are based in Iowa, some are not. Being that TIPS is from the south, it is making its way up north and becoming a powerhouse in the cooperative purchasing realm. So to not hear from or about TIPS doesn't surprise me, but it's not anything new that hasn't been done yet. It just has a large array of products in it that might be just a little bit different than your textbooks and food purchases.
So you say you're talking about textbooks and food purchases. Is it for more than just roofing then? Or like I thought it was like a roofing thing. Is it something they can use other than just for roofing projects?
You bet. In looking at just the few pages that I've looked through and the companies that are part of it, we're from Iowa. Companies that are based here in Iowa are part of the program, whether it be a lighting company, a window company, a furniture company, a flooring company, from manufacturing to installation and the labor as well. There are other Iowa-based companies that are actually a part of this program, and they've responded to the bid or the solicitation just like Duralast did, and they were selected as most responsible bidder. To go even farther on having some validity to what cooperative purchasing is and the TIPS program in general. We're here in Muscatine, Iowa, doing this back and forth, home of Musco Lighting and HNI. And those are two global powerhouses that, are from Iowa. And they responded to solicitations just like Duralast did to become, the responsible bidder in their own respective realm or channels. So Duralast, out of all other manufacturers, has responded for many years on this now, and their contract has been renewed to the max of the 3 years as allowed by public bidding, and they continue to get it year after year. So I think that speaks even more volume to what Duralast is and these other companies that have a long tenure within TIPS, is that it is a valid organization. It's a valid way for people to buy products and a valid way for your independent and your public entities to really, have great efficiency and confidence in purchasing.
What financial advantages does the elimination of the membership fee offer to schools and government entities and nonprofits?
Yeah, so some membership fees can range from $50 all the way up to $5,000 a year, depending on what type of cooperative or purchasing agency people go through. As a public entity that uses TIPS, there is no fee, and there are tens of thousands of SKUs of products and services available. So the advantage is a much wider or broader spectrum, not just for us and Duralast and roofing, but in terms of an entire school procurement system that costs them nothing. TIPS is a great advantage.
So is there any other roofing manufacturers out there that are allowed to go through the TIPS process? Or?
Yeah, in terms of single ply roofing, which is what Duralast is in PVC roofing, they are the lowest responsible bidder in product and labor. When you can have both of those in one purchasing contract where it's not just a product and not just labor, it's very effective in how the consumer or the public entity purchases or provides for their project. There are other companies out there in terms of maybe some metal roofing companies that provide a product, but they don't supply the labor within that contract. So there still has to be a validation process to organize somebody to sign off on it, provide a scope of work and a method, as well as solicit to individual bidders, which still elongates that time. Where we're at with Duralast, we cover all sides of that, which basically speeds up the process to its maximum efficiency while still delivering probably what I would say is the best product at the end of the day in terms of the labor that installs it and the product that goes on the roof. It's very predictable, and it's direct communication right with the people who are purchasing.
Does Duralast only have the option for single ply membranes? What other products or lines do they have that can help with the TIPS program?
Yeah, great question. So Duralast is a family of products. So when Duralast responded to the TIPS solicitation, they responded with their entire family of products, and that's why they're the most responsible bidder. As a vertically integrated company where most of the products made and distributed within the Duralast family are made in-house, they can offer the metal roofing, they can offer any sort of coating, they can offer single plies, colors, you name it, insulations, metal wall panels. There's so many offerings within Duralast that could be used for a small project or even a large project, and all the way up to new construction within the TIPS program.
What are some of the common concerns and misconceptions that clients might have about a cooperative purchasing program?
You bet. And this is like the number one topic of all cooperative purchasing when dealing with large contracts, anywhere from tens of thousands to millions of dollars. So the larger the number it is, the more questions and pushback we get on why does this work or how does this work? And mostly because the misconception is we've been trained to say, we need 3 bidders or at least 3 bidders. Well, that's the responsibility of the architect or engineer or designer to do that for their client. State code does say that there are requirements in a public bidding setting where multiple bidders are required, and that's basically to be financially responsible in that setting. But that's because the control of the project is kind of in a gray area until the actual bid is let or somebody's been awarded the contract. So with tips, there's actual language in the school legislature or in the state code that allows for cooperative purchasing. And when it's allowed directly within the state code, it's very specific on how it's used. No matter what state it's in, if there's a 28E agreement is the official designation for it, which allows governments or intergovernmental agencies to work together. So from Texas to Iowa, we basically piggyback off of Texas's, legislation, and then we incorporate that into our own in Iowa to produce a fitting scenario for that cooperative purchasing. So it kind of addresses two things. The main pushback is, do we need 3 bidders? Well, under cooperative purchasing, no. But that doesn't mean you can't. So there's a way to do it, but if you have somebody you want to work with, why do you need 3 bidders, especially if it's already the lowest responsible bid? And then 2, is it legal? The cooperative purchasing agreements through the intergovernmental agencies, that's where they rest. And then finally, the state codes. So when all 3 of those line up, it's very easy to address those misconceptions and basically say, it's okay. It may be different than what you're used to, but also this is the way it used to be.
Alrighty, so what kind of advice would you give an organization that's looking at possibly doing their first roofing project through the TIPS program?
First thing that I'd always say is talk to the contractor. See if they think it's of value to do this. Most of the times it is. Whenever you can reduce time and money and then come out with a very predictable result, that's always going to be the scenario that I advise to go to. Do your research. Talk to some other people who have used TIPS before. There's plenty of schools and other city buildings or city projects that have been done. It's nothing that's terribly new. So there's plenty of projects out there to basically reference and see how they went.
How do you see the role of the cooperative purchasing programs in the roofing industry in the next 5 years?
Yeah, cooperative purchasing is growing, not just in roofing, but in all other industries. It's becoming more popular because the need is there. There's a lot of fluff that might get thrown into certain projects and, of no fault of anybody except for, in designing a building or a roof or a wall system or a room, people want to give their best foot forward. They want the wow factor. They want to see things really sharp and nice because that's their name on it. So in terms of your cooperative purchasing growth in roofing, I see it growing exponentially over the next 5 years, basically because of the awareness that it's available. So I think there's going to be the superintendent here that talks to the one over there, that talks to their brother over there, and then the board member there has a cousin that lives in anywhere Iowa. And it's just a connection and network of people that start using it. And we've seen that in the Midwest here in the territory that I operate.
Are there any upcoming trends or innovations in the roofing organization for clients to be looking out for future roofing projects?
You bet. There's always a climb for mill thickness or the thickness of the material. The thicker it is, the longer it lasts. So that trend will always continue. Colors are new and neat. Duralast offers the most wide array of colors in the industry, also with very little, if any, minimum requirements on them. Solar reflectivity is gaining quite some ground, as well as the sustainability aspect of roofing. So if you can have a recycling program, solar or PV, and any type of color or color options like Duralast has, we have the gamut of roofing and setting the trend in the marketplace for all of that. Duralast's recycling program leads the country, I would say, if not the world, in single ply recovery or recycling. And all of that gets ground and put back into Duralast products as well. Walk pads are things that don't or aren't required for the waterproofing of the roof, but more accessories on the roof. So kind of like a cradle to cradle operation. So the trend being sustainability and solar acceptance or PV acceptance is gaining quite substantially.
And all these options that you speak of, like, is this all part of the TIPS program too, or are there standards and stuff that you have to follow through the TIPS?
Duralast has responded in their family of products. That's the main contract or the contract that TIPS provides. If there's ancillary products that go with that, such as a solar or PV solution, or whether it be some type of little metal mansard or something that's not part of the main scope of work of the project, that all gets included into the TIPS component or the TIPS contract itself. So it really makes it efficient on both, or on two levels. One, the main contract, then two, any other ancillary service outside of that the public entity may want, such as solar, or such as maybe a little cooler project or something that they want to build for the students.
What are Duralast's future plans in terms of expanding their offerings and different services through the TIPS program?
Duralast has a family of products that they continue to innovate with, whether it be from a fleece back membrane, thicker membranes that resist chemicals and oils differently for industrial applications, adding metal roofing, coatings. We have a whole gamut of things that just continually get added to the Duralast family of products, and that could be in more membranes or more types of unique solutions for unique products. We basically want to be that one-stop solution for roofing needs as well as technical needs, and all of this being direct to the contractor. So we want to be that unique solution to pretty much everybody that requires roofing.
So now what you've described the program and how it can benefit different organizations. What if I have clients coming to me asking us how to get things started?
Yeah, it can be as easy as going right on the TIPS-USA website and signing up themselves. We can also come out and do an on-site visit and walk somebody through that process. Or we have regional and national people that can help out in helping people get set up with their account and with their credentials to start their first project.
Yeah, and all these links will be available to everybody off of the Duerson website to kind of explain the process to go about getting signed up. So now that my client might be signed up and they are interested in starting a roofing project, where do they go to get the project started?
I would say the best way to start is talk directly with the roofing contractor. Whether you have a project need that's immediate or whether you're planning one for the future, the best way to do it is to start right now. The TIPS project or TIPS program makes it easy to facilitate a project, so we don't have to struggle about timelines of when to do it, but we also don't want to wait till last minute. So talk to your contractor, and then we can put the project or scope of work into the TIPS format so that we can abide by all the laws and rules of cooperative purchasing, and we can have a proposal back in a very short time frame.
What are some of the challenges that a client might run into during this process?
Yeah, many challenges are typically personalities that run into it. Whenever you're dealing with a public project, you have public personalities, people that want to see it done a certain way, people that have relationships that might be affected by going through a project. So there's always that inclusion or exclusion being a challenge for these projects. What I think we get a lot of good positive feedback on is the fact that it's a nationally recognized component. It's a responsible bid process, and then it has the approval of the board that is actually voting on this to happen. Back before the public bid process was extremely recognized. People were able to select their local contractor to do any type of work, and they'd get billed for it at the end of the day. TIPS makes it a little more transparent by you knowing what your project cost is going to be up front by the contractor that you select. So in essence, we're not operating any different than what we used to. We're still in the same government and governance of laws. And so we're just eliminating some costs and some time headaches to, avoid the real significant challenge. But always you're going to have people that have a bone to pick or don't think something's right. Once they get familiar with the process, they'll be like, oh, this is the way it should be. This is more like it was.
So you mentioned that it's kind of a quick process, but like say in the case of an emergency, how fast can something be turned around on once the contractor is actually sent in for the TIPS project?
Yeah, as long as they're signed up and they have a number and we can, that back end is already done. It can be about 24 hours if, we have all information available before a proposal or project can be signed off on. So Jake, in terms of public bid and public contracts, what would you say is your least favorite thing to deal with when going through that?
My biggest issue with public bids are the fact that you're always usually working with an architect and going off of what the architect thinks is best for the building's application for a re-roof process. In my opinion, I feel like having an actual roofing contractor developing a scope of work is much better because we're the ones out there daily seeing all types of roofs and everything, and we have the capability of seeing stuff that an architect might not see that could be a better situation for each building.
Now, when you talk about, the opinion of wanting to do that, sometimes architects and engineers are necessary, but in the case of re-roofing or overlays, I would say you're going to know what the manufacturer's requirements are a little better than maybe somebody that isn't directly involved.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of times when you're dealing with an architect's plans and everything, you're going to see stuff that they might miss on scopes of work, and we'll have to bring that to their attention and say, hey, this isn't going to be a warranted detail if unless we do this other step here. And if one contractor or one bidder is bidding the correct application on how it should be done and another isn't, the numbers could be off, and that's how easy it could be to lose that contract or being awarded that contract. So if somebody's not following the correct steps to apply that roof, not only are you losing by they might be awarded the project, but they might have a system that might fail sooner because they didn't add that extra step in.
Right. And so that leads me to the, terrible word in the world of public bidding is change order. I saw a picture of two boats. One was kind of like a little dinghy style boat that said, its name was main contract. And then there was a yacht right next to it that said change order on it. I think the process of, having a direct relationship with the contractor and the building owner or the building admin or the maintenance director has an opportunity to eliminate most, if not all, change orders in a project.
Correct. And that's a big thing for Duerson Corporation in general is like we like to build that relationship and earn that trust from all of our clients and stuff. So we focus on building that relationship and giving you guys a true, honest assessment of what exactly your building needs up front. We're not going to follow through with a bunch of change orders and stuff because we might have missed a scope of work just so we could cut corners to get the job. We want to give you the correct application and the correct price up front. And I mean, if you guys come to us later on and ask questions on, is there something else we can do to maybe change this up a little bit, then yeah, we'll do that. But we don't want to hit you with a bunch of change orders after the actual project's been awarded, because then the administrators are in a hard place, and they have to kind of explain why we went way over budget on this project. So
you bet. Yeah, it's a very predictable solution, so to speak. Now, when you're talking about predictability in the system, do you have partnerships or relationships that you work with to, help you out when you're either designing the roof or looking for the right products to put on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Duralast has an entire engineering department that we can rely on to run different applications by them and see exactly what might work best for each application. And they also have their own insulation departments, metal departments and stuff that we reach out to obviously get quotes, but then they might actually help us with detail work and stuff, whether or not it be like trying to correct the positive slope for watershed on the building, or just details or solutions that we might need for our client's roof.
Oh, very good. And at the end of the day, when you guys are finished with the roof and the customer's about ready to sign off on it, how do they get their warranty?
So the warranty is actually not delivered until a Duralast technical rep has been on site and done a hands and knees inspection of the entire project and signed off on it. Then once that step has been done, they will issue the contractor the warranty, and then the contractor will send it on to the client and everything.
Very good. So back to opinions. In your opinion, when we talk about and have answered some of these questions of tips and cooperative purchasing and responsible bidding, I mean, this sounds like the most responsible way to do roofing from start to finish in terms of how to organize a project and how to close one out and finish it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, in my opinion, I mean, what better way of going through the process of a roofing project than working one-on-one with the actual contractor that's going to be doing all the work. You get to work side by side with the contractor the entire way, instead of having a third party involved in the scope and determining what might be best for you.
Yeah, so basically, at a bare minimum, there is no reason to not be signed up for tips. It is a no obligation, no cost cooperative purchasing program. It will not ding your credit. It will not hurt your browser history.
All right, to wrap this up, thank you, Ryan, for sharing this information about the TIPS program with us today. And if you have any questions, feel free to look out on our website or reach out to one of us to better understand the TIPS program.
Appreciate it much. Hopefully we got something useful out of this, and looking forward to working with many of your customers here in the future.